What's up, HyperFast Nation? On this episode of the show, we've got an amazing guest. This person has knocked on over 100,000 doors, and he is just a great testament to the kind of success you can have, that anyone can have in real estate, if you stay dedicated to a set of actions for a long enough period of time and do it consistently. Welcome to the show, Stephen Ross. All right, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, Stephen?
Awesome.
Before we jump into your amazing story and your very great advice that I hope a lot of people will take, give us a little bit of your background and how you got to where you are right now.
Well, I'll just preface it by, I am a realtor. I still sell real estate. I live in Denver, Colorado, but I'm from Southern California. I'm from LA. It's where I got my license. And I'm the worst person to be a real estate agent, like the worst. I'm antisocial. I'm introverted. I don't work nights or weekends. I don't do open house. Can't find me online. Like the worst person to be in this business. And yet I got in this business in 2005 because I had been in the corporate world. I'd done a startup. I'd been in technology and consulting, and my third child was born 6 weeks after I got my real estate license. And I thought, I want to be home, raise my kids. I don't want to be commuting. I don't want to be working 15 hours a day. I don't want to do any of that stuff anymore. And it seemed like a simple business, right? Isn't that what happens to all of us? We get in this business, we're like, oh, come on, this is easy. Look at all these people making money. And I thought that was me. And then a couple months in, I'm like, man, I'm not doing well. And at the time I was with Coldwell Banker, and anyone who was with Coldwell Banker in the old days, certainly in Southern California, they made you do this 2-week training called Fast Start. And somewhere in the last week, they brought in this real estate coach, and he said, it's a very simple business. Knock on heads, knock on doors, pick one. And I thought, dude, seriously, knocking on doors? I'm a UCLA grad. I've worked on Wall Street. I'm not knocking on doors. You're out of your mind.
Yeah.
Right. And this is LA. I'm not knocking on doors. And, but I had 3 kids to feed, and I realized, holy crap, I am not talking to enough people. I better try this knocking on doors thing. And that literally was the beginning, right, of my 17-year career in real estate, was knocking on doors. And this
was out in Southern California.
Southern California, and if anyone's listening from that part of town, in Ventura County, in Westlake Village, Thousand Oaks area is where I used to live, and that's where I started.
And how? So what do you kind of precisely remember? What moved you from, okay, this is something that can create business for me, to this is something I need to go do. Like, I actually need to go do this. What was that moment like, if you recall?
Well, I think there's a couple things there. The first is I did realize at some point, after listening to that coach, who is still my coach today, is that real estate is not rocket science. Right? It is a very simple business. It is not easy, but it is simple. There is nothing complicated about selling real estate. You just got to go out and talk to people, or you can build it marketing. But if you go out and talk to people, you will do business. And because I'm an introvert and I don't naturally want to go talk to people, I realize that I've got to do something to force myself to talk to people. And that really was the kind of come to holy moment, right? That I had to deal with myself and get over that hump.
How how was it when you first started? Were you nervous? Did you practice beforehand? What was it like those first couple times
Terrible.
doing it?
It was it was terrible, man. I was lousy at it. And the first, this was so 2005. So those second 6 months of 2005 is when I started knocking, and I was lousy. I mean, lousy, not good at all. And here's the thing, I still did some business, right? Just because I was out trying, right? I found business. And then of course, if you keep at it and you're paying attention and you have a commitment to getting better, you can get better. But I think really the first part was just dealing with, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be not good at this. Because my why, right? My why was I had 3 kids to feed and I was not going to quit real estate. So I had to find a way to make this work. And again, knocking on doors has been around forever. This was not like a new thing. This isn't like TikTok ads, or I don't even know how TikTok works, but
Right. There's ads on it now. There weren't when it first came out, but now
yeah.
people are doing ads there. But.
So yeah, it was just really come to terms with, I'm going to pick one thing and this is going to be my thing.
I think that's powerful. Whether it's, and I tell agents this, I think when they start off, a lot of times they get kind of scatterbrained. They just chase little shiny objects and they never do it enough. And if you can find a way to just focus on a particular market segment or marketing technique, and then get really good at that, you'll see dramatic results if you give it enough time. How much time did it take for you doing this until you started to see success from it?
I mean, I'm going to give the answer that nobody wants to hear, right? This is the hyper-fast agent and I'm hyper slow, right? I'm the hare, or, then the tortoise and the hare, I'm the tortoise, right? So I am proof that even the slow guy can finish well. And I was in California for 4 years before I moved to Colorado. I would say by year, it's not that I wasn't doing business in years 1, 2, and part of 3, but by year 4, things started to, have some movement. Of course, then I picked up and started all over again in Colorado. But the point is that the consistency, right? The consistency of showing up every day. You never know how it's all connected. You never know how people are, you never know how people are connected, and you don't know how all our actions always end up in the universe, right? It just has a magical way of kind of coming out in the end.
Right.
And so part of knocking on doors was just stirring the pot, right? I'm going to go out and figure out a way to make something happen. I don't know what that is, but it's something.
Hey, hold that thought. Do you want to get 100 tips for free from my best-selling real estate book, The Hyperlocal, HyperFast Real Estate Agent? If you do, go to hyperfasttips.com and you can download 100 of my best tips today. Again, that's hyperfasttips.com. You can download 100 tips on how to grow your business, get more clients, deliver more value to more people. Go to hyperfasttips.com.
Well, I think that oftentimes there's like 2 categories of results. There are visible ones, like in this case would be like people signing a contract with you or making a sale, but there's invisible ones, right? So, as you're doing this, you were building the habit of doing it. You were gaining more confidence. You were getting better at talking to people. Other people maybe were thinking about using you, but not yet, right? So all these things are happening that you're not seeing, right? And then all of a sudden, like, I don't know your story in particular, but in a lot of cases, all of a sudden a bunch of deals come, right? And people think, oh wow, that happened overnight. Well, no, a lot of stuff was happening and the results were there. You just didn't see it, but a lot of people give up during that period. So
That's absolutely the case. And I have a story, I think I tell it in my book, I'm pretty sure I do, that when I moved to Colorado, maybe my third year here, so 2011-ish, I think it was, I decided I was going to do the August 5,000. I was going to knock on 5,000 doors in the month of August. Now, little did I know when I started that was going to be the hottest August on record in Colorado, right? So here I am, day 5, 5th straight day of 90+ degree heat, which in Colorado is a deal because you're so high up, you've got the sun, it's hot, it's uncomfortable. And so to hit 5,000 doors, I'm out 4 or 5 hours a day. It's brutal. And, and now my clients are calling me, hey, how's it going? So I've created some accountability. People know I'm up to doing this. And I finished that month and I knocked on 4,600 doors. I didn't get to 5,000. You know how many deals I did out of those doors the next month? Zero. Because the very next deal I did was one day in the middle of that month, sweaty, hot, exhausted. I come in the afternoon to pick up my daughter from ballet practice, and I'm sitting next to one of the moms, and next week we're out looking at property. And then they referred me to somebody else, and they referred me to somebody else, right? So the next 3 deals had nothing to do with the doors, zero. Of course, in the next 6 months, I did 7 deals from those doors. So it like you said, right, we never know what's around the corner. We never know when all of that activity is actually going to end up in something. And I think
how many hours did it take you to knock on 5,000 doors?
I think if I remember right, I'd have to go back to my Excel file, but I want to say I was averaging between 4 and 5 hours a day. And I was out, I think, like 20 or 22 days that month, 21 days that month, something like that. So what is that? So that's 80 hours, maybe? 80,
yeah, 80 hours led to 7 deals within 6 months. I mean, it's still pretty good numbers.
Yeah, maybe it was 5. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was whatever it was. It was right in the immediacy, right? Because here's where people get hung up. I need to do business. Someone told me I should knock on doors or make cold calls or whatever they get told to do. But let's use door knocking for this example. They go knock on doors for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, and they're like, see, nothing's happening. And the answer is, how do you know? Right? It's not always an immediate effect. It's not the 1970s anymore. Selling real estate's a lot more sophisticated, particularly in high-priced cities. So it's just a different game. You just don't know how it's all connected.
What do you typically say when you knock on people's doors?
I mean, let's be honest. When you're knocking on someone's door, here's 2 things that we know is true. Here's 2 things we know is true. 1, I'm trespassing on your property. That's the first thing. And the second thing is I'm interrupting your day because we do not have a scheduled appointment. And I figured this out early on. So my approach is a little different because I'm acknowledging those 2 things up front. And so I have 3 intentions when I'm at the door. 1, I am there to leave people better off than when I found them. Not because I'm some real estate messiah, right? Which I'm not. But because of those 2 things that I just stated, can I have an intention to leave someone better off, even if it's just smiling and saying, have a great day, right? Second thing, look, I have 3 kids to feed. I'm looking for now business, not, when your kids, someone says, oh, we're going to move when our kids graduate high school. Great. What grade are they in now? 5th grade. Forget it. I could care less, right? That's too far away. And then the third thing is, how can I be of service, right? Because the odds of someone moving the day I knock on the door, pretty low. But in terms of creating a relationship, how can I be of service? So I'm never trying to get anything at the door. I'm never trying to get their phone number, their email, any of that stuff. I'm there to connect and give. And that is just a much different approach than most people have. I'm not saying mine's right and others wrong. I'm just saying, for me, that's what's worked over the years. That's what's kept me going through COVID when I couldn't be at the doors, where all these relationships I've created from people at the door.
How do you kind of get that opening, right? Because like people come to the door, they're probably, some of them probably like, why is this guy on my property? How do you convince them that you just want to learn more about how you can help them? How does that even work?
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point. Are they even open to having a conversation? Because if they're not, great, have a great day. I'll see you later. I'm out. I'm not there to turn a no into a yes. That's just a low probability game that doesn't work for me. I'd rather spend my time finding the people who are a yes. So that's the first thing. That's the first thing I'm testing for. And then when you do that, when you give people an opportunity to say no, hey, no, I'm not interested. All right, great, see ya. Then you have time to go focus on the people who are happy you came by.
Gotcha. And did you have any like crazy stories from doing this so many times, or just
well, we don't have enough
fun?
time to cover all of them because there's lots of them. I'll say I've had people, I've swarms of bees, snakes, all kinds of that nonsense. I've had a guy come to the door, gun on his hip, hand on his gun. So those are kind of crazy, but I would say the two worst people, hands down, meanest, nastiest, worst experiences were two realtors, not at the same time, but they were equally as nasty. And it's a great reminder. Whenever I think about them, I remind me, I don't want to be that person, right? I don't want to be that scarcity, just nasty person that just leaves people worse off. That is never who I want to be, right? Because in this business, most of the time, it's a collaboration. We're collaborating with our clients, we're collaborating with the other agent. And for those two agents to come to the door and just be so nasty, right, to a fellow realtor, just a great reminder of our perspective makes a huge difference.
Wow. Yeah, I think that is a great reminder. So thank you for that. How did you structure this? Because you mentioned earlier in the introduction that you don't work nights and weekends. So you're knocking on the doors from like 9 a.m. to 2 or something, and then how do you go like service the client too, if you're doing so many hours of door knocking in the day? I assume like how do you structure it, basically?
Yeah, well, I mean, I only knocked 5 hours a day that 1 month, and I have done it occasionally, but typically, I have a schedule. So nothing, again, no rocket science. Have a schedule. I knock on doors at the same time every day. I haven't been during COVID, but up through COVID, I went 11 to 2, sometimes 11:30 to 2 or 11:30 to 2:30. If it was winter, maybe I started at noon because it was a little warmer, but 11:30 to 2 is kind of my sweet spot. So that's when I go. I don't schedule anything during that time. During the morning, I have all my pre-stuff, and in the afternoon, I have appointments. Right? The selling real estate is not, houses don't bleed to death, as they say. So there are no real emergencies in real estate. And if I can't be unavailable, air quotes, for 2.5 hours around lunchtime, like seriously, there's plenty of time to take care of the clients.
Yeah, I think you have to set expectations up front. So I'm assuming you have this conversation with a new seller or buyer client up front, and maybe some people it doesn't work for, and great, you'd rather learn about it now than get halfway down the road with them.
That's right.
So that's kind of how it goes. You have the conversation up front, and you tell them like, these are when I work, and we'll get a good job done, but it's going to be during these time periods.
Yeah, I work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, Saturday by appointment, and you're not going to get me on a Sunday unless it's an emergency. Like, look, we are in a hot market. Sometimes if I'm representing a buyer, the only time to submit the offers on Sunday, then I will make those calls on a Sunday. But otherwise, I'm not picking up my phone, not checking email, not responding to stuff. It's my day off.
What so most of your business, I guess you started in California. Most of it kind of happened after you moved to Colorado. Have you built, beyond yourself? Do you have other people that help you or that you've hired, or or is it basically all you?
I'm now part of a different brokerage. We were a boutique before, and so the brokerage had a lot of support. So I really could just prospect, lead generate, whatever, go on appointments, negotiate, and we had staff that took care of everything else. That was great. Became part of a different brokerage. Some of that support went away. So I had to find some more help. But it's mostly me, a good transaction manager, and a good virtual assistant. And then from time to time, I'll bring on a mentee, and then that mentee and it's only a fixed amount of time. Like, I'm not hiring someone for years. It's 6 months to a year. Shadow me, and then they do some errand running for me.
And how many deals and volume and all that can you do in a year with this model?
Oh, you could do way more.
Yeah.
I'm lazy. Remember, I want to work 20 hours a week on average. That's my average week. And I can do 10 million a year, sell 20 homes, give or take a couple, pretty reliably. And again, remember, not being online, not doing any marketing, not working very hard. Caveat, that's a bad idea. I do not recommend anyone replicate that model.
Hey, hold that thought for a minute. Do you have a client that needs to buy or sell a home in the DMV area? Then why not trust the highest selling team in the DMV, the Carrie Scholl team? We've helped thousands of buyers and sellers and would love to help your clients. And we guarantee we will save them time, money, and stress throughout the process. And they will be so grateful that you referred them to us. Go to carriescholl.com to learn more. Again, that's carriescholl.com to learn more about sending us your clients that need to buy or sell a home in the DMV area. That's carriescholl.com.
My point is, if you get really good at one thing, mine was connecting to people at the door, and you do it consistently over time, you can be successful. And so where most agents get caught up is, well, I have to do everything.
Right.
You can't do everything, right?
Well, I think the other, you've hit on a lot of great points. And I think just putting someone together, like, this isn't rocket science. Anyone can figure out how to knock on a door and talk to someone. And you've created a system where, working less than half the time that most people work, you can do 10 million in closings a year, and you don't have huge amounts of expenses under this model, I assume. So, you can probably make pretty close to the top 1 or 2% of what, like, all wage earners are getting, but you're working a lot less. Am I kind of
that's exactly it?
This? Yeah,
that is exactly it. That's what affords me to go. I was at every baseball game, every dance practice. I picked them up from school, picked them up from religious school. I picked, go on for summer vacation. Perfect example. This is going to blow people's mind. So I usually take vacation. I say usually because it varies by a couple of days, but I always take the first week of July off. The July 4th holiday, I'm off usually for a week to 10 days. 2 years ago, I take my kids. It's just me and my 3 kids. We go on a cruise, and we're somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. So my phone's off for days, and we finally port. I turn on my phone, and I had, shame on me. I didn't forward my phone to anyone. I didn't have anyone actually checking my phone for a few days. So I turn on my phone and it's a longtime client, and there's like, 7 messages or 4 messages. Dude, where are you? We want to move, blah, 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 blah. I call him. I'm like, Brian, I'm in Mexico. I take a week off in July. He's like, oh, that's right. Oh, have a good time. Call me when you get back. And that's how most of my clients are, because that's what the relationship I've created with them, right? I have a life, so do them, so do they. And, so they respect my boundaries because they know when I'm on for them, right? I'm there, I'm their warrior, I'm their champion. I'm there to get them through the transaction or whatever else they need.
I think, you bring up a good point. Like, you've created those relationships, you get that loyalty. I'd probably set up some type of messaging forwarding or something, but
of course,
it's a great point that you can just shut it off and leave and literally not take, 1 second of preparation, like, and it still works, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I say I'm the worst person. I know I should have had better system. I mean, now I do. I've learned, but right, even having terrible's the wrong word. Having not efficient systems. Again, if the relationship is strong and you're serving your clients when you're on, that usually trumps all things. Again, not saying I shouldn't have better systems, right? But again, people get hung up on, well, I don't know what I put on my message and how do I, no, just focus on what your standards are and explain them to your clients, and then find clients that meet your expectations, that match your standards. It's very simple.
What other, do you do anything to like invest in real estate or create sources of income, outside of the commission part of the job?
I embarrassing. I listened to a couple of the guests you've had who've done really well investing. I moved here. Part of the reason I moved here, so the answer is no. I moved here 12 years ago from California thinking it's way more affordable. I'll invest in real estate. I'll be able to make more money because I know that's where you make real money. And then, I started my business, and then I got divorced, and I'm raising 3 kids, mostly, no offense to my co-parent, but, mostly by myself. I didn't spend a lot of time on that. And here I am right now, realizing that it's a big missing. So it's it's a massive focus for the next decade for me.
Well, and you've got the book, obviously, right? That brings in some royalties or passive income.
Yep, I've got the book, and my goal is to have people be well and do well, and which includes myself. And part of that is having a life that works, right? So my real estate business works, and now putting some of that money to work so that it's not all dependent on me, right, knocking on a door.
What is the book about there? I see it behind you, Doors Open When You Knock. Tell us a little bit about the book.
So the book is not about door knocking per se, although it does. So if you're looking on how to door knock, that won't tell you that. But it will tell you what it takes to persevere over time, right? So it's how do we show up consistently over time in a business that calls for anything but that. And if we can show up day in, day out and do the right things, we can have a life that works in a business. And that's what I chronicle in the book.
Yeah, I think that principle, that overall just thought process is more important than the tool itself, right? Like, door knocking was the tool for you. For some people, it'll be geo farming. For some people, it'll be calling expireds or FSBOs. For some people, it might be building a social network.
For some people, it's going to be, I have a client that I work with, another real estate agent in my group. He did 120 open houses a year in, year out, right? He revolved his whole business around open house. Great, right? He had a system. He knew what he did it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, some on 2 a day, right? There's no one way to do it, but he did not miss a weekend, right? He showed up every weekend.
And yeah, so he was committed to that process, just like you were committed to the door knocking, and that I think is the big takeaway from all of this, is that commitment to a set of actions, and being able to do it long enough, right, is what will bring the results.
Yeah, that's the key word, right? You got to have patience. I mean, in this world of instant gratification here, you and I are different parts of the country on Zoom. We're used to having things, right now. And the success in our business, real success, lasting success, usually, not always, usually just takes time.
I agree. It takes time. Stephen, this has been amazing. Your story is very inspirational and a lot of great lessons. I recommend anyone listening check out the book Doors Open When You Knock. Before we wrap up here, I always end with a HyperFast round. If you're ready for some quick questions and answers,
Bring it on. Bring it on.
All right. What's your biggest piece of advice to a new real estate agent?
I would say knock on doors if you're in a part of the country, because it's really the simplest thing to do, but it really pick something. I don't really care what it is, and just say, I'm going to do this one thing for a year. Just pick one thing and just, I'm going to do that one thing in my business for 1 year and just see what happens.
What's a mistake you see experienced agents make, successful, and experienced, but mistake they make?
I mean, I don't know that it's a mistake. I just see so many great agents really feel like they need to work 7 days a week. I mean, these are good agents with good clients and strong track records, and they've got some wiring in them, something that tells them, that they're afraid to take time off. They're afraid to not work a Sunday, or I don't know what it is. I just feel like they're working so hard, doing such a great job for their clients. Work in time for yourself.
What's the biggest challenge you've had in business, and how did you overcome it?
Can I give 2 quick answers?
Yeah, 2 is fine.
Okay. Because I think this one's, it's very humbling for me. This first part is, when I got here to Colorado at the end of 08, beginning of 09, the market, the economy was in a shambles. And so I moved to Colorado in the business about knowing, connecting people and property. I didn't know anything about the property in Colorado, and I didn't know any people. And I had some savings, but not tons. And so I would knock on doors during the day and wait tables at night, right? Waiting tables was not plan B. That was just temporary cash coming in while I was out building my real estate business. It was a very humbling experience. I've never forgotten it. And so that was a good lesson in just doing whatever it takes. And sometimes it's something you really don't feel like doing. And then the second piece of it is, once I got going, I really did not appreciate and nurture the people who I connected to fast enough. I just said, I'm going to knock on doors, and I'll just keep knocking on doors, totally ignoring the fact that if I paid a little more attention to the people who were most receptive to me and nurtured them more through a CRM and through my database, I would have been much further ahead, much faster. It really just, for whatever reason, didn't resonate with me. And so the lesson is, whatever you're doing, there's people who we're going to meet who really value who we are, and make sure they're always at the top of our list to stay in touch with. I just think that was I just made a huge mistake in that area.
What would we find you doing when you're not knocking on doors or helping people buy and sell homes?
Like I said, I'm the introvert. I write, I drink coffee, I hike, I spend time with my kids. That's what I do.
All right. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
10 years from now, my goal is to be well and do well, and which means helping others do that. So I really spending more time helping others, not just in real estate, but in other training and advisory services. Flying my private plane and splitting my time between Colorado and Arizona, and then a summer mountain home. That's my dream.
All right, that sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the show, Stephen, and just the extremely valuable lessons that you taught. Before I sign off, if people want to learn more about door knocking or anything you're doing, what are the best ways for them to do that or to connect?
Doorsopenwhenyounknock.com.
All right.
Super simple.
Doorsopenwhenyounknock.com. Check it out. Thank you, Stephen, so much for being on the show. To all our listeners and viewers out there, thank you for tuning in. Please share this with someone that you think could benefit from learning as well, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the HyperFast Show. Subscribe to us if you want to make sure you get the latest and greatest HyperFast shows. And remember, we love reviews. Reviews help us bring better and better guests and improve our shows. So give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see more, click right here. And if you want 100 real estate tips from my best-selling book, click right here to download them instantly. And if you're new to this channel, click below to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss out. And leave some comments about what you think on the videos.